So, Carolyn Leonard, I'm so excited you're here. This is so good. Yeah. So, guys have a bromance and we have a
sister man.
Yeah. So we got to be on a panel together.
Correct.
And I just thought you were awesome. So I really wanted to invite you to Pivoting in Heels. So people get to know you even more and for you to share some of your experiences. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
What's your title? Like, what do you want people to know you as?
Well, either a bitch or a badass.
I love it. And both of those are appropriate at times, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I've been called a bitch too, and a badass many times. But I think those are both very appropriate. That's right.
Own it.
And those are appropriate. I think guys, a lot of times they'll think, oh, they're powerful, right? And they'll call us other names. And so just own it. We're powerful.
Right.
And I'm so glad that you're here. I want to talk a little bit because what you represent to me is power in finance.
Right.
So, and I think that's something that we as women have to really own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you think about women and money, 80% of every dollar goes through a woman's purse.
Yes.
So we're making money decisions all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
We're the ones that make the major purchases.
Absolutely. Healthcare, education, cars. I mean, General Motors put cup holders in cars because women said, they actually listened to us, that they wanted a cup holder in a car rather than it splashing on them as they drove to work. So women make all the big ticket item purchases. We know more about money than we give ourselves credit for.
And that's the key because I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit for it.
Right.
You know, same thing. So when I went through a divorce, prior to my going to a divorce, my mom gave me the worst recommendation ever. She said, because she always managed the money with our family, she told me, don't manage your money. Let your husband handle it because you're so busy. I was running a bunch of different things at the time. And she said, let him handle it. Worst advice ever.
You betcha.
But I think I also allowed it because internally, and I realized this after I got divorced, is that there's a fear factor when it comes to money.
Yes.
And I had to push myself through that. And obviously, single mom had to manage my money and make it grow. And now I own businesses and I make money grow. That's what I do. But give us some advice with regards to that because you were the first woman, right?
Yeah.
Chicago Board of Trade.
Board of Options Exchange.
Yes, option. And so you're the first woman on that floor, surrounded by men.
Right.
What kind of mindset did you have to have, and what did you go through in order to get that mindset, to go through that fear? Because not only are you managing your own money, because you have to do that day to day for your life, but now you're responsible for other people's money. So tell us a little bit about that, some of the key pivotal moments that you had to go through to get to where you're at.
Well, interestingly enough, when I started trading, I didn't start trading thinking as a little girl, oh, I want to be a trader. I want to walk into the world of finance and own it. What happened was I got divorced. I had 2 kids. I divorced a litigator who I knew was never going to help me or my children or take care of us. So I said, well, that is bull. And I'm going to have to take care of myself. And I am not selling my house. I am going to live in this house. And fortunately, I lived in a neighborhood of men who were traders. Now, these guys were not rocket scientists. These guys, some of them weren't educated at all, and they could afford to live in this fancy neighborhood. And I said, well, what is it they're doing for a living? They were traders at the Board of Trade. So I said, if these dummies can make that kind of money, this is where I'm going. I'm as dumb as them. So I took myself down to the CBOE because I was not interested in trading commodities. I knew stocks. I wanted to trade stocks, and I knew stocks because my mother was a stock buyer.
Okay.
And
so you had that in your
that.
background, which I think is very important because you have a role model that you can follow, right?
Absolutely.
You had done something similar.
Right. My mother was highly educated, and my mother owned apartment buildings. And when we would get rent receipts, my mother would buy stocks. And when we'd go to the grocery stores, my mother would have me reach onto the shelf, and if it was Tide detergent, she'd say, "Who makes Tide detergent?" And I'd look and I go, "Oh, Procter and Gamble."
Oh, really? She had you doing research.
She had me doing,
I love it.
and she would say, "That's right. And do we own Procter and Gamble?" And I'd say, "Yes, we do." And my mom would say to me, "What's the dividend on Procter and Gamble?"
Oh, I love this.
Because
so
my
great.
mama told me that when we sleep, if we buy stocks with dividends, we're making money while we sleep.
Residual income, right?
Yes.
Fabulous.
So as a little, and of course I couldn't believe somebody got paid while they slept, but that is what dividends do. You're earning them while you're sleeping. So I grew up in this environment. So I went to the CBOE because they trade stock options. I started trading, the first day I started trading, I owed $250,000. That was 1976. That's $1.1 million today.
Wow. Yeah.
And I did not
Takes
think...
a lot of guts. You're
or
a badass.
or denial.
Or denial, or whatever.
And I did not think I had a problem until the guys told me, "I won't trade with you." All the men got together and they said, "We've never traded with a woman. We're not trading with you, sweetheart."
Really?
Yeah, so I went home that night and I said, "These guys aren't going to trade with me because I'm a woman? Well, boys, you ain't seen nothing yet." So I would dress fabulously. Similar to you, I believe in high heels, wore 3 to 4 inch stilettos every single day, and I dressed very femininely and beautifully. And I never thought of what I had on as beautiful clothes. I thought of it as armor. We were at war.
Yeah.
I was going to win, and nobody was going to tell me I didn't belong there because I was a woman. Because I knew that if I could do this, I could support my family and my kids.
And that's your driving force.
That's my driving force.
I do believe that whatever we do, men or women, whatever we do, you have to have an ultimate goal, a driving force that pushes you.
Right, a purpose.
A purpose. I think that's really, really key. So
Right.
that's great.
So my family and my children and the stability of that was my purpose. And by the way, if you divorce a litigator, there isn't anything anybody else can say to you that's ever going to hurt you.
Right.
You have heard it all, and you have felt every sling and arrow. So I just went down there knowing that I had one purpose, and that was to take a spoonful of money out each day. And that's what I did. And what happened over time took me 6 months, and then I had a very fortuitous event happen, which really put me in business. And it was because I assumed a tremendous amount of risk in that one moment. And I knew that as a woman, that there are different times in our lives when we have to take the risk.
Right.
And that moment will never happen again. And you put on your big boy pants and you pull them up and you just do what you have to do. And that's exactly what I did. I assumed a tremendous amount of risk. It paid off, and it put me on my path to becoming a very successful options trader.
So you had men that wouldn't trade with you because you were a woman.
Right.
So what do you do with these men?
Well,
what do you do with yourself? How do you handle it?
Well, I had a vagina. It wasn't going anyplace. So I decided that if they had a problem with me being a woman, boys, you ain't seen nothing yet. And so every morning when I would get dressed to go to work, I would dress very feminine. In 3 to 4 inch stilettos, I always presented myself as a woman. Now, the guys may have thought that I had a pretty dress on. I knew it was armor, and I knew we were at war, and I knew I was going to win. Those guys were not going to defeat me. I was going to use everything I had to overcome the obstacles they were putting up in front of me.
I think that's a great comment to fashion. You know, I'm very much into fashion.
Right.
I do Latino Fashion Week. And a lot of times you have to find what you're comfortable in, what you
Right.
feel beautiful in, what you feel
Right.
strong and powerful in, whatever that is for you. put it on and then get out there.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
That's great.
Right, and I did not let anybody telling me I couldn't do anything define what I could do and knew I could do. So I used all the things I had learned all throughout my life about dealing and interpersonal relations, and I figured my way around people that would work with me based on the fact that I couldn't change my gender and were accepting of that. And
So tell us, like, if you did a 1, 2, 3, what were one of those 3 things that you learned throughout your life that you utilized in this situation?
I learned, number 1, be polite and be very nice to everybody, no matter how they are treating you. That being nasty never gets you any place, and that I also knew that I had to be true to myself. And part of being true to myself was that I was a strong, independent woman, and I was on a mission, and nothing was ever going to stop me from achieving those goals, as long as it wasn't illegal.
And now, and you were going to say one more?
And the last thing was I had tremendous faith that in the end I would make it work. I never doubted myself for 1 second. I believed in myself even in my darkest hours.
I think that's so important. You have to believe in yourself, and I think those are things that everyone has to go through at one time. It may be the finance area, it may be in your personal life, but believing in yourself, I think, is really, really important.
Right.
And telling yourself positive things every
Absolutely.
day, and even in the darkest moments, right?
Right.
So I think that's fabulous. Now, tell me, a year passes by, and
Well,
where are you at? I mean, you start off at 0.
I start off at 0. I start off owing this huge chunk of money. Saying
How much again? How much?
$250,000. And it took me 6 months. And because a stock that I was trading the options in had a remarkable event where the stock overnight moved 20%.
Wow.
There were a huge amount of buyers in that stock on the opening. And it happened to, the stock was 3M Scotch tape. Love 3M to this day.
Oh, yeah. That's great. The boys like to do that.
And 3M closed at $44, opened at $52. I kept on selling and selling and selling and selling to fill orders. And as the market went on during the day, the market pulled back. I was able to buy in the things I had sold. By the end of the day, my trading account had quintupled. At the end of the week, I had 6 figures in my trading account. And at the end of that month, in April, I paid off my seat, my mom who loaned me money, and my ex-husband for his half of the house.
Wow, yay, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And as you're going through it, when you have your successes, I know I always tell people that to pat themselves on the back and be grateful
Absolutely.
and thankful and acknowledge
day.
also, because that builds your success muscle. That makes you stronger, right?
Absolutely. And life will always come at you.
Yes.
But I always, when I have difficulty doing something, I remember all the difficult things that I did in the past and say to myself, listen, sweetheart, if you did that, you can do this now. And so that just fuels me forward.
That's fabulous. And I think that's so important for each and every one of us to do that. So, and we're going to talk a little bit next about a new project that you have. So.